Hey there, guys. This is Flamtron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and as promised, I'm going to review the next arc of Saint Seiya, the original Saint Seiya, because, like I said when I reviewed the Saint Seiya Sanctuary complete DVD collection, I'm gonna try to watch the rest of it. And I just watched Asgard several hours ago. I would say I watched it like at 5 or 6 in the morning yesterday, and yesterday, as in the time of this recording, which is the 18th at 4 a.m. So it's been a while. So I watched it on the 17th at 5 or 6 in the morning because I was up. And I'm just going to give my little thoughts on this little arc. It's a filler arc, I will go ahead and say that, and you might be wondering why not just skip ahead to Poseidon since you're already kind of familiar with it from Brave Soldiers. But I wanted to say that I've watched all of Saint Seiya, and I felt like it just felt more right to me. Plus, I kind of wanted to at least experience it. I thought it would be nice to kind of see something a little different, something I just didn't really know about. Of course, Soul of Gold is kind of touching on this a little bit as well, and I guess you could consider it a sequel to this Asgard arc of Saint Seiya. But and I'll talk about sort of the sub quality and I'll go into more details about all the little stuff later on. But the basic premise is that it takes place in Asgard, and I guess you could call her the equivalent to Saori and Athena in comparison to Odin, this woman named Polaris Hilda, or Hiruda as she's called in the subtitles, Hiruda-sama. She gets taken over by this evil thing. I don't remember if they establish on this first episode who it is. It's episodes 74 to 99 of Saint Seiya, this 114 episode series, excluding the OVAs, which are on Netflix. But anyway, and so she turns kind of evil because of the ring and the little circlet thing she has on her, and she summons all her god warriors to basically freeze the entire world, take over the entire world and kill Athena and Saori and the Bronze Saints, all her saints. And so what first happens, this one god warrior, his name is Sid, or Shido as he's called in the subtitles. I've got a lot to say about them subs, but he comes in, he fights Seiya and Shun, who are all look at these new cloths we got, yeah, they're really cool. And so they fight, and then they do this big war on Asgard, and Saori doesn't get captured or anything like that, or she burns her Cosmo to melt the ice or something, because Asgard's been frozen over or something. It differs from the movie a fair amount, that's for sure. In fact, I don't think many of the God Warriors return, if I am correct. I'd have to rewatch the movie. But yeah, so at that point it just turns into the typical Saint Seiya fair where each of the Bronze Saints, and by the Bronze I'm talking about the quote unquote main group: Seiya, Shun, Shiryu, Hyoga, and Iki, the Fabulous Five, quote unquote. But of course, Shina and Marin, the two female saints, they show up to kind of help. The two female Silver Saints, they show up to kind of help out things. And so at that point, it just kind of turns into the Fabulous Five going around fighting the other God Warriors, and what they're trying to do is get these things called Odin Sapphires, so they can, I guess, give them to Odin, or present them to Odin, sacrifice them to Odin, whatever, so they can get the Balmung sword, so they can free Hilda from her possession. She has this ring on. I think it's also the circlet on her head too that you can see in this picture, which this picture is from the returning eye catch from the entire thing. There's the first eye catch that shows up, and then you go to the commercial, and then after the commercial break, this eye catch shows up and then goes back into the show. That's where this comes from. And so basically what ends up happening, to kind of sum things up pretty quickly, they get the Odin Sapphires. They make it to the main thing. They get to Hilda, and they're fighting Hilda and whatnot, and the remaining God Warrior, who's a friggin' god of himself, and then Siren Sorrento, who's one of the sea generals or sea marinas from Poseidon's group. He comes in, and then it's revealed that again, I don't remember if they established this beforehand in like the first episode of the Asgard arc or not, but basically it turns out that Hilda's being controlled by Poseidon to do his bidding, and then the remaining God Warrior like defects to the good guys and uses the last of his Cosmo to like try and defeat Sorrento. Of course, obviously we know that's not going to work because if you've played Brave Soldiers, you've seen you've seen the Poseidon stuff. So he's going to be back, but then they fight Hilda. So they get to fight the actual like goddess person. Seiya gets the Odin robe, so he actually becomes a god warrior, and he gets the sword. He breaks the ring and the circlet thing. He saves Hilda, and they're going back to Saori, and she's like really tired from using all of her Cosmo to like melt the ice. She passes out, and they're like, "Saori, wake up!" She wakes up, and also it's like a tearful reunion. They're about to like hug and cry and have sex, probably, or at least Seiya and Saori are. And then this giant water wave like comes in and washes Saori away, and she's been captured, and they're all like, "What?" And then it turns out that Poseidon has actually captured Saori, and Sorrento is still alive. And that's where the series kind of ends, or the arc kind of ends, and it blends into the Poseidon arc pretty well in that regard. At first, I thought they were just trying to like do like a little mini cameo just to kind of show the viewers that, like, yes, we're on track. We're just going to finish this filler arc. But it still connects to it. It actually kind of ends at a bit of a cliffhanger. So they go right into Poseidon after fighting Hilda and, the Asgardians and the God Warriors. So that's a general plot outline of what happened. I'm going to go into details now. Like I said before, the main thing, it's like it's kind of like your typical Seiya thing where you're going through and fighting like the different opponents, or the Fabulous Five are fighting the different God Warriors. Seiya's first opponent is a guy named Thor, who's like this big strong guy, and they're trying to get the Odin Sapphires. So it's almost like they're trying to like get through. So it's similar to like the Sanctuary arc from the standpoint that they're trying to fight like the next big person. It's not like they're going like up to like a tower. They're trying to get up to like the main Odin like Sanctuary temple or whatever. And so it's similar. It's not really like the Sanctuary Gold Saint arc where they're like going up and like each level's kind of like where their next opponent is. Like I feel like they kind of have to kind of split apart a little bit and fight the different enemies, and that's nice. And another thing I also like is that the God Warriors don't, from what I remember, they don't seem to be as reliant on the whole underdog like hierarchy of like power thing, like rank. They don't seem to rely on the whole rank thing like the Gold Saints did. It was like, we're Gold Saints, you're just Bronze Saints, we're technically stronger than you, you can't beat us. They don't like beat down the whole underdog disadvantage thing down people's throats. Though a lot of the fights they do tend to follow the same general tropes. With Seiya's, it's kind of hard to sort of read, I think, because he's the main character. So like general, like he gets beaten up a bunch, and then like he somehow wins miraculously. I found that pretty much everyone except for Shun's first fight, I actually was able to tolerate. Shun's first fight, I felt like was a bit of a pain. What they do is when they try to give the God Warriors like some backstory, like why they fight, who they are. Like Thor, from what I remember, he was like member of like this family of like Eskimo people or whatever, and he gets orphaned or something, and he's found by a Hilda. The last guy they fight, Siegfried, he's like this ancient warrior who killed a dragon and bathed in its blood to become immortal, which I actually really like that idea. And then he became a God Warrior. The first God Warrior who fights the Bronze Saints in the Grodd or God Foundation house. He's a Sid. He's like this tiger guy. It turns out he has like a twin brother named Bud. Of course, in the subtitles, they're called Shido and Bado for whatever reason. I'm getting to the subtitles. I actually have a bit to say about them. So they do like a big thing with like Shun and Iki, like the whole brothers thing. Like, you actually really like your brother. No, I don't. And they do a thing where, like, they imply that Bud is actually stronger, and their whole thing is like, apparently in Asgard you can't have two kids, so they had to give up one, and they chose to give up Bud, who gets adopted by this guy. And at first, like, he doesn't really think about it, and the only reason why I know their names are Sid and Bud is because on their daggers it has their names inscribed in English, Sid and Bud, like SYD and BUD, so that's how I kind of know. And Bud meets up with Sid, and that's how they kind of take note of each other, and like like everything kind of comes back. And even as a god warrior, he's forced to be Sid's shadow, and doesn't really show up until like after they quote unquote defeat Sid. And they do a big brother thing, and Bud carries Sid's dead body out to like this cliff where they just kind of lay down. That's what it looks like, at least. Shun's first fight, the one I dislike the most, where he fights this guy named Mime, who's sort of like who I think is probably the best looking of or the coolest looking of the god warriors besides Alberich. I think his name is Alberich, the crystal guy. What happens there is like Shun, like he's using his nebula chain, but it won't fight him because like he like it won't. I don't remember if they established this in the Sanctuary arc, but it won't attack like someone that doesn't have an evil intent. And they first explained it, and my first thought was that it's the music, because he has a harp, so he's using the music he's trying to use the music to make it sound like he's a nice person. But then it's like, I'm actually a really mean person, and he's beating up Shun. But then Iki comes in and saves the day, and he's like, you're not a mean person, you're a nice person. It's like, and his whole backstory, I'm probably gonna mess some of these facts up, but like his parents, they get killed, and he thinks that he thinks that his caretaker killed them, but it turns out like some like misunderstanding, like he was trying to like either protect him or something. And it's just like, it's this weird thing. And then like finally he and Iki fight without their armor, and like they just kind of duke it out, and that was an okay fight. I kind of wish they had pulled like a thing where just Iki just like annihilates them. And another fight that was more interesting was Hagen and Hyoga. They do a thing with Hagen where like he uses ice at first, but then it turns like, I can use fire, and he has the thing like the Hono no Ken, flame sword, and it's made out of ice, so it's really weird. And Hagen's like a friend of Freya, Princess Freya, who's Hilda's sister, and she's the one who kind of is all like, please help my sister. She kind of hangs out with Kiki, who's Moo's little buddy, for those of you who don't remember. I don't remember if I think I talked about him in Omega, because he's a lot older, and he becomes the Ares Gold Saint, but at any rate. And so Freya, she steps in, like, don't hurt her, like, if you hurt Hyoga, you'll have to hit me. And then Hagen's like, okay, fine. But then Hyoga like gets in the way, and that's a whole can of worms. And he tries to use like the hot heat from like the magma and the fire, and like in like this little like volcano area to kind of make Hyoga weak, because since he's the Cygnus Saint, and he's like, his whole thing is with ice and snow, like being near hot stuff is actually very difficult for him. But it was still kind of fun to sort of watch him do stuff. I feel like Hyoga is one of the more smarter saints. He, Iki and Shiryu, I feel like, they're all emotionally driven, like, and I feel like that's sort of like what makes them more like realistic, is like, even though they all have like their different intellects and mindsets, they're also like emotionally driven. So it's like, it's not like they're just completely invincible. Heck, Iki, who is supposed to be like the invincible bronze saint, like he gets beaten up a lot anyway. So they kind of throw that out the window pretty quickly. And Shiryu's fight with Fenrir, that one kind of fell into the formula again, where one, Shiryu became blind again, and he took off his cloth again. But that and Alberich is like his only fight. Like the Alberich fight is probably my favorite. It's that one, the fight with Siegfried, and then the fight with Hilda are probably my favorites, because those are the ones where they have multiple saints fighting. At first, with Alberich, I think his name is, he's like this crystal guy who like crystallizes people and like makes them like decompose inside a crystal. And he first fights Marin, Seiya's teacher, the Silver Saint. She gets put in a crystal. And then Seiya comes in. He fights Seiya, puts him in a crystal. Then he fights Hyoga, who's getting beaten up. But then Shiryu comes in and defeats the guy. And they're able to like work to get. He's able to like defeat him. And I thought that was kind of cool. I like it when they have multiple saints trying to fight one guy, or like they try to use. They don't follow like the formula that much. And the Bud fight was also kind of interesting because Shun had already kind of defeated Sid with the help of Shina. And of course, at this point, he's taken off his cloth so he can do like his Nebula Stream. I kind of prefer the way they do it in Omega, where he can use like the Nebula Stream and the Nebula Storm without taking off his cloth. Like, I feel like they're just constantly trying to make it seem like the Bronze Saints are really going against the odds. It's like, you know, like it's over. This series is kind of bad about that, I feel. Personally, I feel like Rin Nikakura kind of does the whole underdog thing a lot better because the stakes are a little higher. Even if at certain points it's a little messed up. But, and that one, they have Iki and Shun fighting together. They kind of take turns. It's mainly Iki who's taking all the blows. He's one of the more stronger saints. And honestly, Shun, I didn't really... I feel like he's one of the more weaker saints, I guess. I don't know. But, and that one was interesting. And then the one with a Siegfried, where it starts off with Seiya, and then it goes into, I think, Iki. It either goes into Seiya, Iki, and then Shiryu, or then just Seiya and Shiryu. And Shiryu's the one who kind of like figures out how to beat him. Like, it's like similar to what Seiya did with when he fought Shiryu in the Galaxian Wars, where like he figured out that his weakness is like around his heart area. Seiya does that again, and then with Hilda, all of them are kind of fighting. I mean, they're all getting beaten up. They're trying to kind of keep Seiya from getting killed because he's like the only hope. But then, like when he puts on the Odin robe, he's still kind of hesitant because he doesn't want to kill Hilda. He wants to try to find a way to save her. And so he's a little bit hesitant. But then, he maintains his faith in Odin, and you know, good guys, they win. Pretty simple stuff, you know. So that it had its nice moments at least. The God Warriors, their screen time and whatnot, they usually last like 2 to 3 episodes. So I feel like they're not introducing characters just to kill them off. Plus they kind of do a bit of a roll call in like the beginning, which is just like a really repetitive thing. But it was nice to kind of get a feeling for like their character. Truth be told, I don't entirely care. Unless it's like super interesting, like Siegfried's I thought was pretty interesting, and Mime's was interesting as well to an extent, and Sid and Bud's was a bit of a shock. I wasn't really expecting that, even though they do a thing in the intro. I didn't even think about it, you know. And Soldier Dream's my favorite opening, so. But yeah. So I think it was decently paced and whatnot, and sometimes I felt like it dragged on a little too long because I just wanted to kind of get through and make it to the Poseidon arc, even if I'm already familiar with that one. I feel like that one, if it takes longer, like, well, it's not like, I don't know, I feel like it won't drag as much because they're kind of in like a dead end like area. I don't know. But that's the general, like, overall I liked it. It was nice. It was kind of a nice little break from things, and it was cool to see the Odin cloth. And the visual quality was good. I will say I did watch this downloaded on my computer. I started watching it on my computer a little bit, and I was gonna originally like set it up so I could watch it on the TV, and I did that, and I hooked it up to like the PS3, and then the PS4 media player thing came out. I was like, oh, I should just use that, and so I did that to watch like the remainder of it, and I thought it actually worked out a lot better. I had a lot more fun watching it, and I'm gonna do that for Poseidon and probably the fifth movie, and possibly Hades as well since it's on Netflix, and I just might as well. But the subtitles, I believe this is what I from what I understand, there's this group called Zero Absolute, I think, and they did like a French version or something. I don't know if they did the French version or if they were the ones who did the English version, but I found a torrent that included the entire series, Japanese and French voiceover with English and French subtitles. The French subtitles seem to be okay from what I can tell. The English subtitles, however, are kind of they started off kind of mediocre, but then they got a little better. And for various reasons. The name of the group, I believe, is this is what I called it because like on the intro, like it had like the translated like name like Saint Seiya, and it had like by so and so. The name of the group, I believe, is DYFI, D-YFI. I think there's another version that I could have gone with, but I just wanted to make sure to like watch I wanted to like just watch it, and it wasn't terrible, and the visual quality was actually pretty good, I think, for an old Toei show, and the audio quality was also pretty good. Like I kept thinking about like with Dragon Ball and how muffled and sort of staticky it sounds. With Saint Seiya, it didn't sound as muffled at all. I could hear a lot clearer. I don't think it was because I was used to it either, because I was trying to like listen to the details. Whereas even if you're used to it and you're watching Dragon Ball, it was still kind of hard to tell, which makes me wonder if Saint Seiya had a bigger budget than Dragon Ball. It's kind of hard to tell, I guess. I don't know, but the subtitles took. I couldn't tell if they took the Japanese and put it through Google Translate, or if they translated the French version, which I think is actually the case, or if they just didn't like proofread and like edited the script to make it flow a little bit better in English, because I don't know, there were times where it's like there were some grammatical errors, some extra letters, and like the little things, like whenever they do these special attacks, they would do like the little karaoke style thing where like it lights up as they say it. And there was some language liberties. Like there was one point where Hagen was like, "I fucking hate your guts, Hyoga." And I'm like, there's no way he is saying fuck. This is a children's show from the 80s. I seriously doubt they're saying fuck. I feel like a lot of fan translators try to make it sound like, oh, this is the way it really is by having them say fuck. And like, no, they probably aren't saying fuck. It's all about context. I seriously doubt they're saying fuck. Heck, and they called Shiryu Seiryu for like the first 2 episodes he was in. They switched to Shiryu for like a little cutscene when they like flashback to his whole thing with Shura and the whole flying into the sky thing, and then they go back to Seiryu, and then they finally switch to Shiryu like after his fight, and like, thank you. And some other weird stuff, like there are times where they call Freya-sama, but in the subtitles it says Freya-hime, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Just that doesn't even make sense. Like, why would you put another Japanese thing there? Like, it's not like the whole Keikaku thing. It's like they're actually saying Keikaku, are they not? Like, it wasn't a joke. I know that much. It couldn't have been a joke. And Kiki would refer to, in the Japanese, he refers to Freya as One-san, which I don't think he actually, in the subtitles they would say sister, which, you know, they're not actually brother and sister. I think he was trying to say like miss or lady, And from what I understand, at like Japanese restaurants, you refer to a waitress as one. From what I understand, I think it's supposed to like be a way to like address a young lady. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't have an equivalent in English. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like it was a little too, I guess, literal. I don't know. Like it just wasn't polished. I think that's the big thing. Like it was almost like you've read like manga and like Citrus has been kind of doing this. Well, they're just trying to get like quick subs out so people can get the general idea of it in English. Really basic, like not edited subs. And a lot of times that what generally ends up happening is that it's not poorly translated. It's just that the grammar and structure is kind of damaged, and the diction is also kind of damaged a little bit, because not damaged, but like it comes across as weird in English because it doesn't really make much sense, and in context doesn't really make much sense because of what's being said, because fucking translators just love being as textually accurate as possible without any regard to the language they're translating to. But I don't want to get into that. By like it gets a bit better like after the like during the Bud stuff with Sid and Bud, and at that point the subtitles they get a little bit more properly translated, and they actually changed the subtitle color too to white instead of like that weird pink color. They still don't put the punctuation in there, and they have characters be like, "I'll fucking kill you," and it's just like, they're not saying that. Stop it. And of course, like I said before, Shido and Bado and Hiruda, and in fact, I think they call Thor Tor. I only know him as Thor because apparently that's what they're calling him in Soldier Soul. And like I said with Sid and Bud, I saw the daggers that they had their names inscribed in there, and Hiruda, like, I already know it's Hilda. Like that's pretty obvious. You can tell. And I also think part of the issue is that I think this is also a dated subtitle release. For Poseidon, I might try to like see if I can find something. I know for the 5th movie, someone did pretty good subs of it. And I actually have a pretty good subs and quality of it. I don't know if there's better subs of the original. I think there was at one point, and I know someone on the Saint Seiya fan forum was trying to do like more like a better translation of it. I don't know. I feel like we really just need to kind of hope for an official release. So for any of you people who are thinking about watching the entire thing subtitled and are going to go with this version, it's not terrible. And I would say you should just try to like go with the other ones, but the problem is like the downloads are not really consistent in the and with this set, this was the only one that I found that had the entire series, like all 114 episodes. Like the torrent I found included everything, and of course I didn't include the Sanctuary stuff because I already had that on DVD. And I just really wanted to be able to watch the entire show, so, once they put it on DVD, I'm going to delete that shit. And of course, I deleted Hades as well because it's on Netflix. But because I had the Hades OVAs also downloaded, which were also betterly translated. So, yeah, overall, the subtitles were tolerable. It wasn't just like completely like bad. And it wasn't like the kind of a sub thing where it's like they localize it to where it's just kind of punched up. They don't even do that. It's like, I guess technically they do that with the whole fucking, and from my standpoint they do that with the fucking thing, because again, there's no way in hell they're saying fuck. I'm sorry. That's just no. But it just had some issues with it. And I know this series in particular is kind of notorious for having kind of bad fan subs, at least the original. Lost Canvas had some okay subs. Omega obviously has some okay subs, and I assume Soul of Gold has some okay subs. I'm talking fan subs, mind you. Obviously, Lost Canvas, Omega, and Soul of Gold are all on Crunchyroll, which is where I watch them. or where I watched Omega and Lost Canvas. I'm currently watching Soul of Gold. So, but yeah, I think I've kind of rambled enough. This has been going on for like 30 minutes, but yeah, I overall I enjoyed the it was a nice little like watch thing, and I'm kind of looking forward to Poseidon because I feel like it's gonna be a little. That's probably the one issue I have with the Asgard arc. It's paced a little weird. I think the actual story itself is fine. And if you liked Soul of Gold, or if you liked the movie Heated Battle of the Gods, you might like the Asgard arc. So yeah. Up next is Poseidon, and I will be working on that. So yeah. Until next time, this is Flames Ron, aka YouTube Sasuke, signing out. Have you ever felt the true power of the Cosmo? Oh, you have? Well, okay, my job's done. Bye.